Good evening. How everyone doing today? God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Armin J. Spears. I'm here to give you a word on today. We're gonna start with we still in Samuel. So we're gonna start with Israel asks for a king. They asking for a king. And sometimes you have to be careful what you ask for. Be careful what you ask for. Cause you might not get exactly what you ask for, what you expect of it to be. So it's gonna come up First Samuel chapter 8, verse 1 to 22. So when Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons as Israel leader. Cause see, Israel asking for a leader, and Samuel been a leader, but now Samuel old. I know. So, I know we ain't been talking about Samuel too much. I know he was a boy, but now all of a sudden he grown now, and he done got old. So he cannot be that leader. So he appointed both of his sons to be a leader for Israel. So now Israel asking for a king. For Samuel. He is too old, but he have two sons that he will appoint them to. So the name of so both his sons served at Bathsheba. But his son did not follow his way. Now sometimes, you can see somebody, a nice person, and they're so sweet, but then their children be a whole opposite of them. Because we know Samuel, he's very faithful and obedient to God. But then his two children, they're just like Eli. Eli was under God, representing God and everything. But his two sons was the totally opposite. So he wasn't doing what Samuel was doing. So they say he was not following his way. They turned aside after dishonest gain and accepted bribe and perverted justice. Now see, they were accepting bribes, and perverted justice. They was doing all kind of wicked stuff. And these are Samuel's sons. So now we see Samuel's sons is not the image of him. He accept bribes and other things that his sons was doing. Now Samuel is an old man, so he appointed his sons to be a judge and a leader over Israel. Now in his place, because he got too old. But they turned out to be corrupted. Much like Eli's sons. So we don't know why, Samuel's sons went the wrong direction of him. So but we do know that Eli's sons, are responsible, for their own sons' corruption. Because he died right along with his sons. So all the elders of Israel gathered together, to come to Samuel and Ramah. So they said to him, "You are old, and your sons do not follow your way." Now this is the Israelite. They're talking to Samuel. Let Samuel know, that you done appoint your sons to us. But your sons is doing the opposite of what you was doing. So you appoint him now appoint us a king. So they're saying appoint us a king because his sons is not working out. His sons is not working out, such as the other nations. See, and that's another thing. They're so busy worrying about the other nation. Keep on saying, but the other nation got a king. The other nation, when they go fight, their king come with them. And they gotta realize they have a king. They got God. That's the best king you can get. They're talking about they the other nation king go out and fight. God fight for them too. That's the best king that they can have. But they reject God. They're rejecting Samuel's two sons, and they're trying to keep up with the Joneses. So now Israel is telling Samuel his sons is not following his way, that we need a king to lead us. But when they say give us a king to lead us, this displeased Samuel, so he prayed to the Lord. So they gotta realize, you're talking to Samuel about his son, so he kind of feeling a little disturbed about this. That is my son y'all talking about. So he don't know how to handle that situation, so he turned it over and started praying to God. So this would displease any person. And this son not doing the good, but being corrupted, so he don't know what to do but pray to God. Because that is God people. He don't want, be so rude to them when that is God people. So he don't know what to do and what to say to them, but pray to God. So in the Lord told him, listen to all that the people are saying to you. It is not you they have rejected, but they have rejected God as their king also. So he telling him, you got your face down and everything. They reject your sons. But God letting them know they also reject him too. They reject him too. So he's saying, so now Samuel don't know what to hear. He don't know what to do. But God told him to listen to the people. Listen to what they're saying about your son. See, it's about his son, so pretty much he on one head. So God's saying, listen. Listen to what the people have to say. So as they had done from the day, so I brought them up out of Egypt. God saying, I brought them up out of Egypt. Until this day, for saying me and serving other gods. They forsaken God and start serving other gods, so they are doing the same thing to you. So they rejecting your sons. They reject God. So God tell them, they're doing the same thing to you. I brought them out of Egypt from slavery, from being oppressed. God took them from out of all that. And God is the best king that they have. Because God show power. The king can't give them food and all that. God was giving them food. Giving them strength when they're fighting their battle and stuff. So now God's saying, listen to them. But warn them soberly and let them know what the king who will reign over them will cause, as their rights. Now see, God is telling Samuel, okay, they want a king. Let them know it will cost them to have a king. To have a human king, because see, God is supernatural. So now they want a human king, God said to let them know to have a human king, it's going to cost them. They're going to lose a lot of rights. Because the king that they want appointed over them, going to come in and take over a whole lot of stuff. And they ain't going to be able to they ain't going to be able to know what to do. They ain't going to be able to do nothing. So let them know. Let them know. If they still want a king, it's going to cost them. So the people is crying out for a king, thinking that a new system of the government will bring about a change to the nation. But because their basic problem was disobedient to God, the Israelite obedience is weak. So when to serve God only. Every time they want to, we gonna serve God only. God saying they serving is very weak. They'll do it for a couple of days and then they back to their old stuff again. So Israel asked for a king, but it will cost them. They will lose rights instead of gaining. They will lose a whole lot of rights. But if they want a king, God gonna give them a king. So Samuel had told all the words of the Lord to the people, who were asking him for a king. Now he said, this is what the king who will reign over you will claim as his rights. So they're saying to have a king, he gonna claim so much rights over that what y'all they had just fought the Philistines, 20 years ago to have all their rights back. Now they're about to lose their rights again because in a king that come over them, they're going to lose their rights, and they're going to go to whoever the king is. So he will take your son. So this what the king going to do. The king going to come in your possession and be your king. He going to take your sons, he going to make them serve, with his chariots and horses, and they will run in front of his chariots, and some he will assign to be commanders, 1,000 of commanders, and 50, and others, will plow his ground, reap his harvest, and still others will make weapon of war, and equipment for his carriage, and he will take your daughters. This is what the king gonna do. He's gonna take your daughters to perform from and cook and bakers. Now he will take the best of your field. Take the best of their field. You know, Canaanite supposed to be brutal, filled with milk and honey. You know, vineyard and olive grove, and give them to his attendants, and he will take a tenth of your grain of your village and give it to the official and attendant. Now this all the king gonna do. You know, and this not it. You know, your male, your female service, you know, the best of your cattle and donkeys. Now he will take for his own use. Now he will take a tenth of your flocks, and yourself will become his slave. Now God had took him from slavery. Now you mean to tell me for them to have a king, they're gonna be slave all over again? And that ain't gonna make sense. They're going backwards instead of going forward. You know, so this all what I just said, what the king gonna do and what they're gonna take over for them to have a king. You know, so when that day come, you know, when they have a king and the king gonna do all this and stuff. So when that day come, you will cry out for relief. And see, God put all that heavy load on them because they keep on being disobedient to God. You know, so God not going to make it easy for them. You know, so he put all that load on them that the king going to come up in there and do this and do that. You know, just because it's a stiff neck, you know, people. So when that day comes, you will cry out for the relief from the king, and you will have chosen that they have chosen. They want a king, you know, but then they're going to cry out, you know, from the king that they're chosen, you know, but the law will not answer you in that day. Now you see, and they're still gonna want that king, you know, all this stuff, you know, the king gonna have rights over, you know, and so so once they become to be slaves, they don't like to become slaves, you know, they were slaves for 400 some years and they cried out to God, you know, so you want a king. This king gonna take rights from the Israelites, and they also gonna make them slaves. And you know they don't like to be slaves. God pulled them out of slavery. You know, but they about to drag themselves back into slavery. And once they get into slavery, that same day, they're gonna call out to God, and that same day, God is not gonna respond to them. You know, so we have to be careful what we ask for. You have to be careful what you ask for. You have to be careful what you pray for. You know, you want a king, God gonna give you a king, but it may have consequences behind it. You know, you want a husband and you're not specified, God gonna give you that man. You know, you gonna say you want a man, God gonna give you that man. You have to specify what you want. You got to be careful what you ask for. You know, the Israelite, that's all they want to keep up with the Joneses. They want to keep up with the other nation. Keep talking about the other nation got king. The other nation, they go fight battles. Their king go fight battles. You know, God didn't design them to keep up with their neighbors. God designed them to be a holy nation. You know, to stand out among all the rest of the nation. God didn't create them to be among the nation, to stand side by side with the nation. God designed them to be different, you know, to be holy, you know, but they want to be like the neighbors. So be careful what you ask for. You might just get it. Remember Hannah, Samuel's mother? You know, she didn't really thought God was going to take on her offer. She said, God, if you give me a child, you know, I will give it right back to you. You know, she didn't think God was going to take up on her offer, and God did. God gave her that child just to see if she going to still be faithful to the word that she said. And she was. She was, you know, and God used that child, you know, to be a prophet, to be a priest, a minister, and everything else, just how he want a minister and a judge to be, you know. So and they get one. So God said you got to be careful. So what you ask for, you just might get it. So people ask for a king, and they got one, but not before being warned exactly what a king will require of them. Now they was warned. Now, you know, Joshua, Samuel had told them, you know, what it gonna take for you to have a king. You know, so Samuel tried to subdue them. You know, he know that once a kind of king, they are asking for gain power. You know, the king will gain power. Now he might not rely on the law or take responsibility for his own action. The king that did get might not answer to God. You know, like Moses and Joshua. You know, in a situation where they used to turn around and pray to God what to do. You know, but this king here gonna want power. You know, they ain't gonna rely on God. They ain't gonna want to talk to be connected with God. They're gonna want to handle the Israelite the way they want to handle it because they're gonna use their power to advantage. You know, so they take responsibility for their own actions. Still, the people want to be like the other nation, you know, around them. You know, instead of being special, you know, because they're special, you know, they wanted to be similar. You see, all God chose them. All us is different, you know, because God designed us like that. You know, God didn't design us to fit in. God designed us to be unique. Every last one of us chosen is unique and us special in God's eyesight. We might not be special to no one else, but we special to God. The Israelite, you know, is special to God. God designed them not to similar, not to fit in. God designed them to stand out, to be special, you know, to be a unique nation, you know, to be holy, you know, but they're doing the opposite of what God had designed them to be. You know, so they want to stand side by side with their neighbors. And God didn't design us to stand side by side. Well, know what? We are special. We are different. We are unique. You know, so the Israelite enslaved themselves to a king who who will exactly have heavy taxes. You know, they have to pay. And I see this supposed to be their land. You know, but they want a king that gonna do all this thing to them. You know, they had to pay tax on their own. Now, see, when they was under God, they didn't have to pay no rent, no taxes, you know, no food, nothing. 'Cause God designed that land for to have food and everything. Everything that the Israelite need, it was on that land. You know, but now you want a king that you're going to have to be paying taxes and everything else on your own land. You know, and require services of their children. A king who might be unresponsive to God. They ain't gonna want to have no connection with God, you know. And see, they're supposed to be a holy nation. Anybody that wants to be a king over the Israelite, they have to have some kind of personal, some kind of connection with God. Just deal with the Israelite, you know. So if you get a king deal with the Israelite and they don't have responses to God and don't want to have connection with God, then that's not the king for you. Instead of devoting themselves to the real king, they had a real king. You know, they're looking for a king where they had the real true king already. You know, so instead of devoting themselves to the king, you know, who cares intimate for them, you know, God care a whole lot for these for the Israelites. He care a whole lot for them. You know, he care for their well being. You know, and so in the king that they have, that they get, it's not gonna care for them like God care for them. You know, see, they was under God. They didn't have to pay no taxes. They didn't have to pay no rent for the land. They ain't got to pay to go be going out looking for food and all that. God designed everything that the Israelites need on that land. They have it on that land. You know, so now God's hand was over to Philistine for 20 years. See, the king that they had, the real king that they had, God put his hand over the Philistine. You know, so they will not attack them for 20 years. You know, their king that they're supposed to have cannot do that. You know, they're going to have to constantly fight whoever wants to fight them. But God loved them that much to give them a break. You know, to give them a break. Okay, I'm going to put my hands on the Philistine. I'm going to give y'all a break for 20 years. You know, but if you get a human king, you're going to have to constantly keep on fighting because they don't have the power to put their hands on the one that touched the Israelite. You know, so they have, for 20 years, you know, they had peace. You know, they had a king, They had a king with power, the only king that with power, you know, but that would love and protect them always, you know. But instead, they want a human king, he would take everything they own, and they would be back to square one, being a slave and being oppressed when God had dragged them away from that. And once that same day, you know, that king make them a slave, then they're gonna want to call out to God. So this was, this what they wanted. You have to be careful what you ask for. But the people refused. Now all that Samuel told them what the law said, what they're gonna lose their rights. The people refused, to listen to Samuel. They said no. They said we want a king over us. And then we'll be like all the other nations with a king to lead us and to go out before us and fight our battle. They're not listening to Samuel. They're not listening to Samuel. You know, they're gonna lose their power. They're gonna lose their rights if they get a human king. But they keep on wanna be like the other nation. So Samuel carefully explained all the negative consequences of having a king, but the Israelite refused to listen. And sometimes people can constantly tell you something. If your mind just stuck on that situation or what you want, you're not gonna listen. So when you have an important decision to make, and weigh the positive and negative, carefully consider everyone who might be afflicted by your choice. So the choice that they make it gonna affect the whole Israelite. You know, so cause right now he's just speaking to the elders and some of the Israelites. He's not speaking to everyone. So Israel wants to be like other nations, but God called them to be a holy nation. God called them to be a holy nation. Separated and unique among all the others. God wanted to be different from the other nation. He wanted them to be unique. He wanted them to be separated from the other nation. That's why He put them in that big old land. So they could be separated from the other nation and won't be so close. So the Israelite motive is asking for a king was to be like a nation around them. This was in a total opposition of God's original plan. That wasn't God's plan. So when Samuel heard all that the people said, he repeated it before the Lord. So the Lord had answered, listen to them. So Samuel went back to God and told God that your people said no. They don't want to listen to me. They still want a king. So what you want me to do? So God turned around and said, listen to the people. Listen to the people. So the Lord answered, listen to the people. And He said, give them a king if that's what they want. Meaning, you told them everything, so that means if they're going to lose their rights, they know they're going to lose their rights. They know they're going to lose their power. So then Samuel said to the Israelites, everyone go back to your own time. So in part two, I'll probably give that later on today or tomorrow. The king, that's when Saul gonna be coming into the picture. So they said no, they want a king. So that means for them to have a king, God saying you're gonna lose your power and you're gonna lose your rights. You're not going to even own that land. You're not even going to own nothing that's in that land. And matter of fact, you're going to go back to slavery. So they was fine with that. And they said, we fine with that, so we still want a king. So God told Samuel, listen to the people. If that's what they want, we're going to give them a king. So that's when Samuel sent all on back to their town. And there will be part two of who the king gonna be, for Israel. And then there'll be part two, three of how they make it out with the king. How they make it out, losing their power and their rights and being a slave. Didn't like being a slave. God pulled them from that, and they're gonna turn around and be a slave all over again. So that's all the word I have for you today. And y'all have a blessed day, and I see have fun at the festival if y'all at the festival. You know. Sound like it's raining, but y'all hope y'all have y'all umbrella and a raincoat. And so y'all have a blessed, safe day, and I see y'all on the next video.